Okay. 4 benches to keep them in good shape so people could sit on the bench.
I think, Linda, you had some, did you want to say something? You want to come on out? You want to come up to the mic?
Well, I think that's something we might be able to discuss in the strategic planning aspect of things because while it does generate some income, it impacts the aesthetics of the park. And the reality is that some of those benches should probably be replaced. So the investment of putting a nice new plaque on something that's really on its way out maybe doesn't make sense. The other thing is there's been this ongoing discussion about naming things in the park, and I think in retrospect our own group may have been a little remiss, it's certainly predating me, of putting names on the light fixtures and that type of thing because it set a precedent for more signage of that type, and there's no way to pleasantly gather the donor information for the park without it now becoming a little bit more like a memorial. And our feeling is that if people have an emotional attachment to the park for whatever reason, it shouldn't be that they dictate how the money is used. That if they want to make a donation in remembrance of someone who frequented the park, supported it, whatever, there are plans for the park on the table that could benefit directly from that money without having to put a sign on something. So I would urge not a prompt decision with regard to that. I think it sets a precedent.
Yeah, I'm happy.
Because then the next thing you know, the bathhouses are going to have...
Sure. Well, first of all, I want to thank Mr. Lawyer for this proposal. And I think unless the Commission has this is not something that needs to be voted on today. And so unless the Commission has an objective, I'm very more than happy to take it up in the strategic meeting and session that we see. Yes, Goldie?
Well, I just want to tell you something. I don't know whether you're aware. If you put plaques on benches, there's nothing to say that they aren't going to be stolen. And that's what's going to happen when the parks are closed or at night or whatever it is. People do come by and they do that. There's graffiti all over the place and nobody's taking care of those people. But there are plaques that have been stolen. So if you're going to put something big maybe against a wall and then add names, that may be different. But little plaques on benches are not going to work, I can tell you now.
Thank you, Goldie. Well, thank you, Bill, for that presentation. We'll pick it up at the strategic meeting. Thank you. The triathlon meeting?
Just basically there as an update. Just before the triathlon, we agreed with the triathlon in a meeting where Mayor French was, Bill Lawyer, and myself to a $2,000 fee this year, mainly because it was very late in the season. What we agreed on also at that point was that after the triathlon was over, we would meet again. So I just wanted to put it on as a reminder. What I really wanted to find out was, do any of the commissioners want to participate in that discussion, or do we just set that up with Fred Joffrey, myself, and Bill Lawyer?
I'm happy for you to have that meeting, but I think we should give them some direction. I think the direction is we want to, I think, and as Mr. Lawyer is suggesting, we need to look to generate additional revenues for the park. I mean, those guys, they generate, it's a huge fundraising exercise for them. And, I think we're extremely accommodating of them this year, given the fact that it was late. But I think that we need to, get a whole bunch. I don't think we're even recovering our costs at this point.
No, that's correct.
I think we need to not only recover our costs, but generate some income for the park next year around. So,
Has the analysis been done exactly how much the cost?
Well, we had done some analysis, and what we'll do is we'll push it out to the commissioners so that you get a little advance look. What we did was we looked at the last 3 years of what were our daily revenues, and we tried to factor in our daily costs at that particular point on an average type of basis. So the question really becomes, like any cost analysis, Are we including too much? Are we including not enough? Are we being fair in our allocations, et cetera? The revenue kind of stands alone because that we have hard data on. And, to be frank, we are not recovering our costs at the $2,000 rate.
Then would you, as a follow-up to this discussion, would you send a memo to the commissioners on the board? And I'm very happy for the commissioners to make suggestions, recommendations as to what they'd like to see. It's a negotiation anyway, so I think that could kick things off.
Sure.
Yeah, that wasn't my recollection of the meeting. We were roughly looking at a cost of $1,000 a day to run the park, and that would included our high cost of overhead, all the directors and everything. And when we looked at Thursday and Friday, they really weren't using the full park anyway. They were using a subset of the park. So really, you're talking about Saturday and Sunday. So if our total cost for 4 days was $4,000, they were paying us $0. We looked at a cost recovery model. They gave us $2,000. So to say that we won't recover our costs, you're factoring in our high overhead cost. I don't know if they should pick that up. So let's get a true understanding of what the costs are, and then determine, do they pick up the entire piece? Because the park is still open Thursday and Friday to a lot of other people.
No, totally agreed. I mean, the park is open, frankly, all 4 days for anybody who wants to come. The issue, however, is the amount of time that's required and the amount of staff time that's required to get there. I can only say that I know that Playland recovered something in the neighborhood of $16,000 for the use of Playland facilities, as well as administrative costs, et cetera. So in looking at it, we thought we were proper in allocating even our management time that went ahead with that.
Well, why don't you send the
Okay, yeah, I'll send it to you.
Great.
All right.
The last bit of business is just in your packets, and for those of you at home, we've put a whole bunch of financial information on our website, and so you can get that. It's on www.ridetownpark.org. Everything from 1994 to 2010 audited financial summaries, 2011 adopted budget. This is just scintillating, exciting stuff. I know those of you at home. 2011 Pavilion rental report. So it's all up there for you if you want it.
Well, it's part of the transparency project here in terms of finally putting data up there that we have confidence in. Prior years, we really didn't have what I would call truly solid data. We're now very comfortable that the data we're putting out is good data.
And it's really thanks to all the different committees and commissions and the pushing, which hopefully only makes us better and will only continue to make us better. Any comments, questions from the rest of the commission? That's all the business we have.
Of course, predictable, because the permits that we received this year were up substantially because we got the information out early in the season. And once again, I just reiterate that we should probably, at our next meeting, start discussions as far as fees for 2012.
Absolutely.
Because what we did last year is we voted on February, as I recall.
Yep.
And that would be the right time frame that we would have to have everything nailed down. Because at that point we start to go to the printing presses and make up letters.
We should get a proposed draft at the next.
Right. So,
sure.
Mr. Arcaro, Mr. Nawati.
Paul, did you want some water? Do you need some water?
No. I had 158 degrees soup. Burned my mouth and my throat.
You sure you don't need any water? We can get water for you?
My chest, and I'm sorry.
All right. So,
I'm able to control it, but I don't.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. So would you make sure we get that on for next month's agenda? The initial conversation about the fee schedule for next year.
Sure. And as a matter of fact, we can, I think, begin drafting at least a first iteration of a budget, kind of a straw man budget to throw up there and say, okay, here's kind of what we see happening.
Great. Excellent. Any other comments, questions, please?
Mayor Feinstein, when we talked about the public-private partnership, one of the reasons why we didn't start populating members was we really want to get a clear sense of what the mission of this committee is going to be. So I think Chairman, we should nail that down. Maybe somebody take a swag at it, an email. So before we start appointing people, we've got a clear sense of the charter.
Right.
And I think one of the keys is going to be the type of entity that can go in that facility,
Yeah,
given some of the zoning controls. And
I've also always thought that that it was also interesting to see what was going to happen with Playland as well, because there can be, even though they're separate, the fact is there's a location and there can be some synergies there as well.
Yes.
So,
okay.
Well, let's talk about that for 2 seconds, and I think that's a wonderful comment. Does anybody want to take a crack at? I'm happy to take a crack at it if you want. And there'll be very much of a layman's draft, but yeah, I'll take a crack.
Okay.
Because I think
we can look at it.
To look at it. We've got 2 lawyers on the commission here, so you guys could be able to take it up the next level. But I certainly, from a commercial standpoint, I think what we're really talking about is a group to, well, 1, understand the needs, and then 2, try and figure out what's the best way to address those needs. Really tapping into funds from the private sector, since the public sector is so constrained, as we talked about earlier. And what are the different modalities to do that? It could be, I imagine the range would be from fundraising, simply fundraising, to, putting out RFPs and asking for requests. But I'll pull that together.
Right, but the RFP would have to be consistent with a park operation, similar to what we went with Playland.
Are you suggesting that the holiday village that we turned down at Playland is not going to be reconstructed? Only joking. Only joking. Yes. I guess one question I would have is, like, for example, let's, for argument's sake, say somebody wanted to put a restaurant in there or something like that, maintaining the historical infrastructure. Is that something that would be potentially considered? I would generally, if you ask me a priori, I would have thought initially it would have been a possibility. But I don't, it's something for us to discuss, and that's what we'll be doing in the meantime in terms of chartering the commission. I think ultimately the commission is going to look at these issues as well.
Right. Our city planner would have a description of the types of entities that can go in within the zoning, go into a structure like that.
Okay, perfect. Good. So we'll actually make sure to talk to them as well. Great. Any other comments, questions from the commission?
Motion to adjourn?
Yeah, second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye. Thank you very much, everybody.
Wow.
What is?
That is...
What is?